Hi, everyone. Tony from Hack the Movies here, and today we're talking about what is considered to be the best anthology horror film of all time.
Mm-hmm.
But what is the best story in Creepshow? Let's find out today on Talking About Tapes.
Tapes, we're talking about tapes.
Oh my God, Joe DeRosa, hello.
How you doing, man?
Man, it feels great having someone who's almost as famous as me finally on this show. I do this show with people like Joey C. Who the fuck is Joey C? No one cares.
He's Joey C.
Adam does movies.
Now you got Joey D.
Yeah, Joey D is way better than Joey C.
Joey E, Joey F. Go through all the Joeys.
But yeah, I do this show with like Adam does movies. Who cares? Crystal Quinn? Crystal, get out of here. So it's great to have someone who's almost on my level. Thank you for being on the show.
Sure, I try.
For the two people who might not know you, can you properly introduce yourself?
I'm Joey D. I'm Joe DeRosa. I'm a comedian and you know, some other stuff, and I have a band and called Salsa Windfall.
Nice.
And I'm here to talk about Creepshow.
But
I have a horror movie. Well, most importantly and most relevant to this, I have a horror movie podcast.
Oh.
I have a movie podcast. We predominantly talk about horror movies, but it's called We'll See You in Hell, myself and my dear friend Patrick Walsh. We've been doing it for, Christ, over 9 years. It was strictly horror.
Mm-hmm.
We've expanded into then genre.
Yeah, early on in this show,
Yeah.
we did a lot of horror, so people thought it was a horror podcast.
Yeah.
And I'm like, not really, but
Yeah.
but this is spooky season.
Yeah, I can't.
It's
I love it.
October.
Yeah, it's
definitely
awesome.
October when we're filming this. Obviously.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. This is great.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
today we're talking about Creepshow.
Yes,
I love Creepshow.
me too. It's in my top 10 movies ever.
It's top 10.
Yeah,
Jeez.
not just horror, like movies ever made.
That's a good one to have up there. I love George Romero. Actually, a while back, I went back to Pittsburgh for the first time in a long time, and I got to go to all the Living Dead locations.
Yeah, so Creepshow to me, I mean, I love anthology horror.
Yeah, so do I. Big fan of anthology horror.
So I love anthology horror. Creepshow is my favorite of any anthology horror ever made. You said at the top that it's considered the best. I guess it is by many people. You know, a lot of people think Dead of Night is...
What is it?
Dead of Night from 1940
Oh,
fucking
yeah.
2 or whatever, you know?
I guess so. People consider this. I mean, this is
know.
derivative of those films, but this is like the one you think of the most.
I agree. But for me, this whole movie is the epitome of what makes of my favorite era of horror, which is, you know, that late 70s into the mid 80s.
Yeah.
This epitomizes that era. This is to me the peak of that era. And like it's also the peak. I mean, nothing has ever encapsulated so well what you love about George Romero, Stephen King, Tom Savini. Like the makeup in this is like the exact thing that you love about Tom Savini more than anything. It's gory, it's gross.
I have a note later on that like he's like on his A game here.
Yeah.
This is so good.
It's monsters.
Yes.
It's Stephen King when he's spooky. You know?
And a little funny. It's very tongue in cheek.
yeah,
This
yeah.
was definitely inspired by like old EC comics or just horror
Yes.
comics in general.
Yeah.
Because they all grew up reading that.
Yeah. And it's Romero doing fun
Yeah.
horror.
This is like the generation of filmmakers who were like taking things they loved as kids and giving them like bigger budget. Like at the time this was happening, Spielberg and Lucas are doing Star Wars and Indiana Jones, which is like they loved they loved watching old serials.
Yeah.
So they're going to do their own. And this is like the horror version of that.
That's a
They're
great
like, we
call.
used to love watching these things, so here's our new thing.
Yeah, that's a really good call.
Yeah.
It was kind of a thing that a lot of these directors were doing at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a story. There's an interview you can watch where Romero and Stephen King talk about how they came up with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, they went away for a weekend somewhere because Romero was. They were talking about doing an adaptation of. I forget what the purpose was, but the studio I think put them together because Romero was going to direct an adaptation of a Stephen King thing.
Okay.
And then when they were away, they started. I think this is the story. They started to talk about EC Comics and how much they love EC Comics. And they were like, "Why don't we do that?" And then they did.
That's pretty good.
Basically.
I didn't realize, like, I mean, I knew at one time. It's been a minute since I've seen this one. But I was like looking it up. I'm like, oh yeah, Stephen King like wrote all of it. For some reason, I had this
Yeah.
false memory that he just like wrote his part. I'm like, oh no, he wrote the whole goddamn thing.
Yeah, yeah, and none of them are based on any stories, pre-existing stories. He just wrote the.
Yeah, I think
it,
some of them, the
you know.
second film might be based off some of his stories. But
Well, the raft in the second film, the raft. That's an actual story.
Yeah.
In I think it's in Skeleton Crew or
Maybe.
Graveyard Shift.
maybe I could actually read more Stephen King. I read a couple of his books, but like, famously on the show, I used to have a girlfriend who would use my Audible to listen to Stephen King books.
Yeah.
And I would always just like kind of tune out. But whenever I tuned in, thank God we didn't have neighbors because it was just N-word after N-word. I'm like, what the fuck are you listening to? She's like,
Yeah.
I'm listening to it. I'm like, wasn't this about a clown?
Yeah.
What the fuck is happening?
Yeah, man. He gets into that dark side of human.
I would literally
behavior.
be like, I'd be working in my office and like, oh, let me go get a drink, walk in the kitchen. And it would just be like, and here's a description of a penis. I'm like, what the fuck is like Pet Cemetery? I'm like, this is not this.
Yeah, it's like listening to like an audiobook of like a Tarantino movie. Like, all right. Yeah, no, but well, that's also too like, you know, that's one of the things that I also have a trauma diploma. How great is that?
Yeah, Lloyd's been on the show.
Yeah, he was on our show too.
This is my favorite thing is when people just point out stuff randomly.
Yeah. No, he's the best. We did a live We'll See You in Hell in New York, and he came on.
Oh God,
great.
Lloyd is so good.
But anyway, but that's, you know, I was thinking about this because I was watching this Stephen King documentary the other week. I forget what the hell it was called. It was some Amazon Prime thing. But anyway, I'm watching the interview clips, and they're all, you know, people kind of point out repeatedly to Stephen King the same attributes of his work. You know, you're so good at this, you're so good at that. And it's always the same sort of 5 things. And one thing I've never heard anybody point out is he writes the best bullies ever. He captured, how old are you?
35 at the time this airs.
You're young. I'm 47.
Thank you for calling me young. Most people in the show pretend I'm in my 60s, so that really feels good.
You're young.
Thank you. I'm aging horribly, but thank you.
But no, I'm 47, so it's like I remember now. This still might be applicable to you too at your age, but I don't know. But when I was a kid, bullies were fucking terrifying. Like when a bully cornered you at my age, when I was a kid, you were afraid for your physical safety. You were afraid that you actually thought I might die.
Yeah, that happened to me. I mean, I didn't think I would ever die, but I did have friends who would beat the shit out of me because they thought it'd be fun. But bullying in my generation was more like everyone was on top of the physical violence, so it just became like emotional violence.
I still like when I was in grade school, kids still fist fought. It didn't get broken up until way too far into the fight.
Oh, okay.
By the teachers or whoever.
The few fights I got into broke up real quick.
No, yeah, it's like, but like kids bullied, and like I had bullies that messed with me that were, without question, sadistic.
Yeah.
Like sadistic, who, by the way, some of whom I have caught up on, not caught up with, because
you check in and see what they're up to,
but caught up on through this person knows that guy. And they are exactly who you think they would have turned out to be. And like, it's wild because I'm like, that's what Stephen King writes. If you look at Christine, or sometimes they come back, or It, being the best example, those are the bullies. They're sadistic, they're vicious, they're racist, they're homophobic, and I don't mean tangentially, outwardly.
Yeah.
And
very much so. And some of his stuff is period pieces, so they're allowed to be even more in those settings.
And it's great because you're like, this is a hateable person, and they're frightening because he's taking them to these extremes of viciousness that are frightening when you're dealing with somebody that doesn't, where it's not insinuation, it's somebody who doesn't care that you know their worst qualities. They don't care. In fact, they're proud of the worst qualities.
Yeah,
That's a bad guy. That's
Yeah.
an amazing bad guy.
It could be an entertaining bad guy.
Yeah.
When they're just like,
Yeah.
I'm just gonna say whatever the fuck I want. Fuck you.
Yeah, it's like my friend John Horowitz was telling me about. Like there was a Marvel comic where where they had to walk through this like truth gauntlet thing, and they sent Doctor Doom through it, and they were saying like if you went through it and you weren't a just person,
Yeah.
you would be undone or whatever I forget.
Yeah.
But anyway, they were like, well, you're finished because they sent Doctor Doom through. You're the worst.
Yeah.
And he came out unscathed, and they were like, "How is that possible?" And they were like, "Because he believes that he's right. He truly believes he's right, and that makes a great bully."
Yes.
And then they're also usually hiding something, which is another great thing about the Stephen King bullies. There's stuff in the novel of it where they think the bullies are having like. They're experimenting homosexually with one another. They can't deal with it.
Yeah, that would be the shit that I would tune in on when she was listening to the audiobook.
Yeah.
I'm like, where's the clown?
Yeah. So he just writes the best
Yeah.
bullies, like
Real quick.
truly frightening.
So when you were bullied, did you also become a bully? Because that happened to me. I got bullied, then I'm like, let me try being a bully. I'm like, oh, this is fun. I didn't do it for long. I did it for like a year. And I'm like, all right.
There was one kid I didn't like who was always a smartass that I tried to bully, and then I just wasn't very good at it, and I let it go.
I don't think I was good at it either.
Yeah. But I mean, all kids are kind of assholes. Like the shit will roll downhill. But no, I was not like, let's go mess with this kid. Kind of, you know.
Well, there's a lot of bullies in this movie. Not so much young kids, but like there are people who are just really mean to people for no reason in this.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's
starting with the dad.
Starting with the dad. But let's get into the film here.
Yeah. Yeah. First, what's his name?
Tom Atkins.
Tom Atkins, yeah.
Tom Atkins is screaming at young Billy.
Yeah.
The next time, young man, I find you with a worthless piece of shit like this again, you won't sit down for a week, buddy boy.
Played by Joe King, Stephen King's son, who has himself gone on to become a writer and director.
Yeah, now Joe Hill.
Joe Hill, right. He's Joe Hill now.
Yeah.
He's being yelled at by his dad, Tom Atkins, for reading horror comics. He's like, what is this crap? He's like hitting the kids, screaming at him.
It's one of my favorite lines in the movie. Tom Atkins goes, people turning into plants, for Christ's sakes.
I love it. In one sentence, he spoils the entire movie we're about to watch. I'm like, oh.
He's so mad about the most benign premise. Like, it's a scary story, but like the premise in and of itself is so not offensive. A guy turns into a plant. Like, it's like, but he takes such issue with it. He's so mad about that one.
I love that the kid calls the dad. I was like, well, you have magazines under your bed.
Yeah. It's great. It's great.
Also, I just want to note that that kid's room, that little bat toy he had, I feel like me and everyone else had that bat toy.
Yeah, the rubber.
The rubber bat toy, and I'm jealous of his Rodan and Godzilla figures. But anyway, Tom Atkins spoils the whole movie. He throws the Creepshow magazine out, and then the creep stops by. He's just outside little Billy's window, and he's like, hi, what's up? He actually doesn't talk in this. There's like a different creep in the second one who actually is more what you would expect of a horror host.
Yeah, so in the second movie, the creep becomes a cartoon.
Yeah.
So, Tom Savini plays the creep at the beginning.
Yeah, then he turns into a cartoon.
Makeup. Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know why they felt, because in this one, like, he's just the mascot for the comic. He's not like telling the stories really. And then I guess the next one, they were like, well, we need more of a crypt keeper sort of thing.
He does. So in the first one, the creep does, you will see, if I'm not mistaken, I think you see an animated finger turn the pages.
I guess so, but
and
that's
then
like
it'll be like the word bubble with the creep.
Yeah.
So you'll see that he can talk, but he never
but he doesn't
talks
actually
in this.
do it. Yeah.
And he also does not appear in between segments. The segments are connected by
just the comic panels.
Yeah. But also too, the kid is great.
The kid's awesome.
When Joe Hill, when he goes, he's sitting there rocking on his bed about his dad, and he goes, "I hope you rot in hell."
Yeah, he's like evil.
Yeah, it's really great.
And he becomes eviler in the next one.
Yeah.
But
it's great.
Yeah, I love the opening illustrations. Like they actually did like the comic panels of what we're gonna see later on in the film.
Yeah.
Really, really great opening. The first segment, Father's Day. So this is about a rich family who is awaiting their Aunt Bedelia to join them for dinner. And we get young Ed Harris.
Oh, yeah.
Looking pretty good.
Yeah.
We find out that Aunt Bedelia killed her father.
Yes.
Because her father was just a fucking asshole.
Yeah, another bully.
Another bully who was just mean to her for no reason. And then when she found like a nice husband who cared about her, he had the fucking husband killed.
Yeah.
That's horrifying.
I get the feeling in this first story, because this first story is pretty point A to point B. You find out you find out it's Father's Day. You find out that the dad is the patriarch of the family is dead.
Yeah.
You find out why he's dead, and then he rises from the grave and has revenge as a zombie. Yeah. There's really nothing else to it. There's no amulet that brings him back to life.
No,
there's it's just.
I kind of like the lack of explanation for a lot of the supernatural stuff in this.
Yeah. This is the coolest looking character, I would say, in the entire movie, is the zombie of the father when he rises. Yeah.
He looks, again, Tom Savini on his A game. Okay, I love when they're telling the story. We get our first look at like kind of like the comic panel outline graphics that they put on people. Like when he's banging his cane, he's in that little window.
It's great. Yeah.
So they're working in the actual comic-y panel look into the film, which is really good. They only do it here and there. They don't do it for the whole film, which is cool.
They do it just enough.
Just enough.
That it is a device that you recognize.
Yeah.
In the second film, it's not in it at all, I don't think. They
not too much.
All but removed it, which I'm sure was some stupid studio note of like, we don't think it needs all the comic booky
It's
stuff.
weird they did it, because the director of the second one is the cinematographer of this one, who was a longtime cinematographer of George Romero.
Which is why I don't think it was his choice. I think it was a studio note. But anyway.
But also the editing is really good in this. Like I love when it cuts to the gun. It shows about a guy about to shoot a gun, and it cuts to Ed Harris lighting his match.
Yep.
And her own father had him murdered.
Bedelia shows up. She's played by Vivica Lindorff, who,
great.
If you're a fan of horror, was the creepy old lady in Exorcist 3.
Yeah.
Who ends up getting possessed and tries to kill the girl. And she's also Catherine in the first Stargate movie.
Yeah.
Which was an early episode of this show.
And she's also on... she's an old ingenue or whatever.
Both like the girl plays her sister is another one who was in like a shit ton of old movies.
Yeah.
But yeah, she goes to his grave every year to yell at him on Father's Day.
And get shit-faced.
She
brings a bottle of whiskey.
Yeah.
And sits on the grave and gets... And why she's so brilliant as an actor is there are moments when she's sitting there and she's spewing out all this vitriol at the dad, and she hates him and she hates him and she hates him. And then, like, as she gets drunker, like, there are moments where she kind of laughs with him, even though he's not there. Yeah. And you're like, it's still her dad. Like, there is, like, a weird soft spot she has. Like, but she hates him. But,
I love when she does his...
She's so good.
I love when she does his voice. Because, by the way, the day he died, he really wanted cake. I've never met anyone who wanted cake this much.
Yeah.
And he couldn't wait. He had to bang his cane and scream. He calls her a bitch, which is my favorite line. He goes, "You bitch," and then she repeats it. She's like, "You called me a bitch."
Yeah.
You bitch! You called me a bitch!
Well, and that's the beauty of the simplicity of this story. It's literally just showing you this guy is an absolute asshole, and he's furious on Father's Day that he's not being celebrated by these people he's abusing around him.
Despite the fact he has no reason to be celebrated. He is the monster.
So he never gets his cake because they're like, screw you.
But I guess for some reason, 10 years later or whatever, he's just allowed to come back to life and get his cake. So he comes back to life and just fucking kills her.
Kills her, kills everybody.
Well, he's about to kill everyone. Don't skip ahead.
Oh, sorry.
We got to see Ed Harris dancing.
Yes.
He does that weird move like this. I need your opinion when it comes to dancing in horror movies. This or Crispin Glover in Friday the 13th Part 4? Which one are you ranking higher?
I don't remember. Ed Harris to me it will never be topped. But I don't remember enough what Crispin Glover does.
Oh man, that is like the most iconic thing from Friday 4 is this weird dance.
I don't know why I'm not remembering. Yeah, but
you're gonna look it up later and you're like, oh fuck, I know that whole dance.
But Harris, I mean Harris's dancing is so iconic, and when in the making of Creepshow, they talked to him about it.
Yeah.
And they're like, "What were you doing?" And he's like, "I don't know, man. They just told me to."
I think they might have been like dancing to like music that wasn't. Oh no, I might be remembering Crispin Glover. One of them danced to different music, so it would be purposely out of sync with whatever music they picked.
That's great.
But yeah, he messes around in the graveyard and falls into the empty grave. And this is like a weird scene because like it wasn't enough that Stephen King, sometimes you overcomplicate stuff. I'm on board with he's just a zombie. So whenever I watch this, I think the zombie is pushing the tombstone into the grave.
He is, isn't he?
No, it cuts to him and he's doing weird magic stuff. He's like using the force.
You're right.
And I'm like, all right, he also didn't need to be a magic zombie.
You're right. You're right.
But yeah, so Ed Harris gets crushed by the tombstone. And we covered a movie recently.
Yeah.
Me, Crystal, and Frank, we did Batman Mask of the Phantasm.
Oh, yeah.
You would think a kid's Batman movie wouldn't have a scene similar to this, but a dude does get crushed by a tombstone in that.
Yeah, that animated DC stuff gets pretty heavy.
Yeah. But I feel like that might have been like a what you call it, Creepshow callback.
Oh yeah.
And then he talks to himself. He's like, "It's Father's Day.
It's my cake."
Yeah,
I
I want my
really
cake.
want my cake." It's like, dude, calm down. If you weren't already a zombie, I'd be worried about like diabetes or something.
Yes. And then he descends on the house.
Yes.
And he kills whoever's left.
Dude, he turns his other daughter's head completely backwards.
Oh, that's right. He twists her around.
Twist her backwards.
And then he turns her head into the cake, correct?
Yes, he turns her head in the cake because the two other siblings, the last ones left, are looking for everyone. And by the way, them two and the mom earlier, they both walk in the kitchen and like everything's dark, but the stove's on and they don't think anything of it. They're like, "Where's the help?" The help is dead, by the way.
Yeah.
They kill her, but yeah, he opens it up. He turned his daughter's head into a cake.
And the head literally has icing on it
Yeah.
and candles. He like took the time
He took the time to make it.
to dress it.
And this, like, I'm glad this was the first segment because their reactions when it cuts to the guy screaming and it gets all red and like all
it's the best.
comic stuff. I'm like, I remember when I first saw this as a kid, which I forgot to ask in the beginning. When did you first see this movie?
I don't think I was 2. I was probably 9 or 10.
I probably was around the
You
same
know?
age. They used to play this on like HBO or Cinemax all the time. So I watched this a lot. At one point, I did used to own it. I had the old paper DVD case. But our friend's Movie Dumpster, they reviewed the movie a few years back, and my friend said he owns every copy of the movie except for that specific DVD release, so I gave up my copy to him.
I own as far as I know every iteration of Creepshow.
Really?
I have the VHS, the DVD, the Blu-ray, the Scream Factory, whatever, and then the 4K.
Nice. That would have been great to have on set, so thanks for not bringing it. That was a great job.
Well, it's not my show. It's not my job to bring props to this goddamn thing. You got plenty of shit in here. You know. He gets his cake. And the insinuation at the end is when he presents the cake to the two survivors is that he's not going to do anything bad to them. He got his cake.
Yeah, he
He's
just
good.
wanted his cake and he's done. He just really, if there had been a cake already waiting, he probably wouldn't have killed anyone.
Yeah, I know. It's it's such a fun little crazy short.
I like the
great.
idea that he just went and ate the cake and then just like went back to his grave.
Yeah, cannibal cake.
He cuddles up with Ed Harris's corpse. Yeah. It's great.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's another thing. Some of these don't feel like they have endings. This is one of them where you're like, oh, I guess they're just gonna sit there and stare at him.
It's very. I mean, it is very EC Comics. Now, what you have to, for anybody that has not seen this movie, what you have to keep in mind when you watch it is this is pre the HBO iterations of Tales from the Crypt.
Yes.
And Vault of Horror and all that stuff.
Because that's 1989, I think, Tales of the Crypt starts airing, yeah.
So the only adaptations at this point had been the 1970s Hammer. I guess it was Hammer. Or was it?
Yeah, there's an old
Hammer.
Tales from the Crypt movies. There's a couple old anthology films. What's the other one? The one with the little oh god, there's one with like the little black doll that hunts.
That's Trilogy of Terror.
Trilogy of Terror.
That's later 80s.
Oh, that is. For some reason, I remember that.
Or mid 80s, whatever.
Okay.
But I think it. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it is older than that. But the only iterations of the EC stuff at this point had been the Tales from the Crypt from England, and then the Vault of Horror. But even with those, what I'm about to say applies to this. These are these are not adaptations, but they are inspired by, right?
Yeah.
But these are very true to the form of the comic book stories. If you watch the HBO stories, very few of them are like, hey, man, this is literally front to back what happens in the story in the comic.
Yeah.
They have to beef up a lot of stuff. And
they're only meant to be a few pages. Yeah. For
these
films.
play like a few pages of a horror, like
They do.
just here you go. And then he puts his daughter's head on a platter and he makes it into a cake. You're like, yeah,
and I like
okay.
how short they are because they usually like. I feel like a lot of anthology stuff, like 3 stories is usually the good mark to hit, but I feel like this one does what 1, 2,
5.
3. You're right, 5. So they have to be short and like to the point.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just like an awkward ending for that one. It's just like, and then they stare at each other.
Yeah, yeah.
But next, we get the lonesome death of Jordy Verrill. Not only is Stephen King writing, he's acting in this bad boy.
And he's great in
He
it.
steals the fucking show.
He's amazing in it.
Meteor shipped.
When it comes to comedy, he is the king in this movie.
He's awesome.
Yeah.
I saw a bad review once of his performance in it. I was like, "What are you nuts? He's fucking great."
I'm like,
in
what were
this.
you expecting? Like, I feel like some people. I feel like when I showed this movie to friends years ago, they didn't like the concept of horror comedy was foreign to them.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, no. Things can be scary and you can laugh at them at the same time. So you get to Jordy Verrill and they're like, what the fuck is this? What is this?
This one is, lonely guy lives on a farm, meteor lands.
Yeah.
He touches the meteor
he gets
thinking
covered in meteor shit.
meteor shit. And the only reason he touches the meteor is because he thinks he's going to pick up a meteor and go sell it to the science department at the college.
For $200. I love all his hallucinations.
Yeah. they're great.
Yeah, he's got like the doctor and he's like $50. He's like 200. Keep accounting.
Yeah.
I like when he first off, he touches it like an idiot. But he breaks the meteor trying to cool it and it cracks in half. And then he's imagining he's like a broken meteor that's worthless. Like, no, I think a rock from space is it's valuable no matter what. It doesn't matter if it broke in half or not.
Yeah.
Spoiler,
No,
there were parts of bigger rocks that broke.
It's a very funny short. And terribly haunting by the end. But he I love too that one actor plays all the different parts in his hallucinations.
He plays
his dad.
He plays the college guy, the doctor, and the dad.
Yeah.
But I love like the set design is great in this. Because like we see him touch everything, and then they always go back to the things he touched, and now plants are growing, like weird alien plants are growing out of everything.
He starts to he burns his fingers on the meteor.
Yeah.
He then cools it off. He then realizes that he has warts on his finger where he touched it.
Yeah.
But when he burns his fingers, he sucks on them because it hurts. And then he sticks his tongue out, and his tongue's got stuff on it.
And
and then green starts to grow. Like
I love
life starts
when
to grow.
he like hallucinates calling like a doctor, and he's just imagining that it's being amputated. But like again, the comic panel stuff, the outlines come back where it's like a skull and crossbones, and I love that the doctor is just on a chair that like moves on its own
with a meat cleaver.
And with the meat cleaver, and he's like, this is going to be extremely painful.
Yeah.
And I love the juxtaposition of like everything's getting really bad for Jordy. And he mentions that he has bad luck. Meanwhile, there's a preacher on TV that's talking about positivity. Everything's going to be great.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, his dick literally turns into a plant.
Yeah. You really get how alone he is.
Well, he's got the ghost of his dad showing up for a second to make him feel better.
Because as this infection, whatever you want to call it, progresses, and he becomes more plant-like, but as they show the growth around his home, you start to see it bigger and bigger, and you start to see how isolated his home is and how he has nobody he can call or talk to about this, and he's just dealing with it in his home, and he's hallucinating because he's alone.
Yeah, and
it's wild.
I love it's like getting into his brain too, because his dad is like, don't go in the water. Yeah. That's what it wants. And he's just like, it's too late for me, Dad. I got to get in that water.
Because he's itchy, because he wants to,
And he comes out, the next day, whole house is covered.
Yeah.
He comes out looking like a moss man. He looks like Swamp Thing. And he's just like...
Well, he's sitting, it's disturbing because he's not even moving. He's just sitting. Yeah. It's cutting from the property around the house, whatever, and then it cuts to him, and he's like this.
You don't even really know it's him yet.
Yeah, it's gross.
And he's still alive. And like, this is like the funniest one so far, and then it has like this super sad ending.
Oh yeah,
where he just grabs the gun. He's like, "Please God, just let my luck be good this one time." And the good luck he wants is to make sure he kills himself without anything going wrong. And then he blows that, and then it's got a real cryptic ending where we just see like it's now leaving his property, and that plant apparently it's headed to Boston and Castle Rock, which is another Stephen King reference.
Yeah. It's a gut wrenching. It hits you.
Yeah.
It hits you. It's kind of like it's very much like the end of the Goldblum Fly.
Yeah.
Where he puts the gun to his head and he realizes like I'm done. Like
Yeah.
this is it. Like I thought there was hope, but there's no hope. I'm dead.
Which is like my plan of fusing me, you, and a fetus into one being didn't work. I fused with a door instead. Please kill me.
Oh, it's so horrible.
Did you ever see the deleted endings for The Fly?
Like with the baby,
She
that's like
hallucinates
a
the baby
caterpillar.
being
Yeah,
a butterfly.
yeah.
And then there's one where she ends up with the asshole dude.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm glad the movie ended where it did.
Yeah. Yeah.
Fly 2. I feel like it's underrated.
I like it.
I like it too.
I'm a fan. Yeah.
We should come back and talk about The Fly at some point,
right.
especially Fly 2.
Well, The Fly's a great.
The Fly is great.
Yeah, masterpiece.
But the biggest, okay, so like in 2008-ish when my family like moved here, I had to bring all my movie maniacs, Todd McFarlane's movie maniacs. The only one I kept in a box because I was smart. I was like, oh wait, I've been opening all these. They might be valuable. I had The Fly. Lost it in the move. I'll never find it again.
Is it worth anything?
Maybe, probably not, but it might be worth at least $30.
I had the Fly one, and I don't know what I did with it.
Yeah.
I had it somewhere.
I
but-
don't know why that specific one just disappeared. But yeah, so it's like this depressing ending.
Yeah.
Then we get to something to tide you over with Leslie Nielsen.
Which, okay, so this is post Naked. Sorry, this is post Airplane,
I think
pre
it's definitely
Naked Gun.
post Airplane. Yeah.
So we've seen Leslie Nielsen be sort of funny. He's funny in Naked Gun. I mean, I'm sorry, he's funny in Airplane, but he is still playing it. He's not Frank Drebin funny yet.
No. I wonder if the Police Squad show had aired.
I think it
before
had.
this. Yeah.
But even in Police Squad, it's played much more serious.
The
like,
reason,
it's, you know,
the reason he was so funny is because he was such a serious actor.
But
So,
in like
he would deliver ridiculous dialogue, just like deadpan. It was great.
the gags, like the visual gags that you got in the Naked Gun movies weren't quite as prevalent in the in police. At least the ones involving Leslie Nielsen aren't quite as prevalent in the Police Squad show. Yeah. But also too, he's just there's something. I think it's just because that was his first foray into it. He's just a little more serious. But my point is that. So seeing Leslie Nielsen here be kind of funny, but also the villain,
well,
is interesting.
Well, for me, by the time I had seen this movie, I had already seen all the Naked Guns and
Yeah, me
Airplane.
too.
So like, I hadn't seen a lot of his more serious roles until like later on. And actually, a while back on this channel, we covered a great comedy. He was in Soul Man, starring C. Thomas Howell.
Jesus,
Great
yeah.
film. Great. What, you don't like Soul Man? I thought it was great.
It's an odd
What's
movie.
wrong with Soul Man, Joe DeRosa? Find out on our episode. Fun fact: I had local Philly comedian Manny Muskets, really
right.
funny guy,
Nice.
one of the funniest guys ever. I had him on that show.
Okay.
Because I have a black friend. I had to let everyone know I have a black friend
Okay.
if I was going to review Soul Man. He insisted he dress up like the pimp that Leslie Nielsen imagines the guy as in the
That's
scene.
hilarious.
So I had to dress up like Prince. That is the second most edited episode of Hack the Movies because Manny got a little carried away in that
All right.
episode. Go back and check out that episode. It's a lot of fun. You can check out Manny. He's really good.
Well, with Leslie, I'm trying to think now because you asked me earlier when I first saw Creepshow. I think I saw it before I saw the Naked Guns.
Okay.
So I misspoke.
Well, I feel like
But
a
then
lot
I
of
think after I saw Naked Gun, I went back and saw Creepshow. We watched Creepshow and was like, holy shit, I never realized this was Leslie Nielsen in this.
Yeah.
But he's the bad guy in this story.
He is very
and then
bad.
Ted Danson in a very serious role.
Yeah, Ted Danson, who makes more money than George Costanza.
Yes.
Seinfeld joke.
Yeah.
He finds out that, Ted Danson's been cucking Leslie Nielsen.
Yeah, he's having sex with his wife.
Yes. And if this is such a good scene, like it just shows like kind of Leslie Nielsen plays such a good psycho.
He's amazing.
In this because the dude's just like, look, we were gonna tell you. I'm sorry you found out. And he's just like, oh, your VCR, your cable's all messed up. I gotta fix this. Like he's a real tech heavy guy.
Yeah.
And he's more concerned about like the VCR and whatnot. But he tells him that he has to come with him.
Yes.
Because he plays audio of the wife, played by Galen Ross from Dawn of the Dead.
Yes.
Just begging for her life. He's like, well, if you want to see her, you got to come with me. Sorry. So
Yeah.
they go on a little trip. I would not go on this trip. Would you go? I'd be like, well, that sucks for that lady.
I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. But yeah. But I do think doesn't he hold him at gunpoint first?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not
Okay.
yet.
Okay.
So he takes him all the way out to the beach. And again, like, he is being so happy and cheery, and it just makes you so uncomfortable
Yeah.
because you know he's a bad guy.
He's
gonna
about
do
to get
something.
his revenge.
Yeah,
Which, by the way, this is why Stephen King writes villains so well.
Yeah.
Ted Danson says to Leslie Nielsen, your marriage is over. You don't even love her anymore. Like, why do you care? Like, and he goes, it's not about that. It's about what's mine is mine.
Yes.
And you're like, this guy, like that's it's one line, and you're like, I know exactly who this guy is. You just summed up his entire life in one sentence.
He's probably cheating on her, but that's not the point.
Yeah, and you're just like, okay, this guy sucks. Okay, I'm with you. Anyway.
But yeah, I love that he takes him to the beach, and he shows him like the big hole in the sand. And that's when he pulls out the gun. He's like, you're going to get in there, buddy. You're going to get in there or I'm going to shoot you. So he buries him up to his neck. And then he says like, yeah, she's also on the beach. And he knows he's probably going to die. So he starts screaming help. And he's like, oh no, I own the whole beach. Just throwing around for and he starts screaming with him.
Yeah.
Help! Help! Help!
It's very sinister.
Because, like, in that situation, your brain's just trying to struggle to figure out anything to do. And if, like, the guy who is your threat is doing the same thing as you, that's, like, unnerving.
Yeah, it's very sinister.
Yeah.
It's very, very sinister. Yeah.
But, yeah, I like that he almost started. He's like, yeah, I could bury you all the way up to your head if I wanted to.
I know. He starts shoving the sand into his mouth.
But he leaves, comes back with the TV. He is broadcasting Becky. He's broadcasting Becky from the other end of the beach. Just the tide is coming in and it's starting to like drown
and
her.
again another great detail about the character, because he comes in at the beginning to Ted Danson's apartment and like you said, Leslie Nielsen is pretending to be preoccupied by his VCR setup.
Yeah.
And it's such a thing that an arrogant guy would do to fuck with you. He would be like, I'm going to pretend I care more about this frivolous thing than the clear matter at hand.
Yeah.
But Leslie Nielsen is a guy obsessed with tech and TVs and tapes and whatever.
He tells him.
Also speaks to the character of the time, because it's like, no, that was a thing at that time that was expensive.
Yeah.
And only rich
Very
guys could
expensive,
do
yeah.
it. And, you know, like, it's a great detail.
I love that he tells him, he's like, I know you can't see the VCR, but it's actually on record. I want to save this for later.
Yeah.
And it's like, holy shit. But he tells him, and this is like, to the guys who made Saul, did they watch this? Because he's like, you know, the tide's going to come in. It could loosen it up. Like, because right now he has like no leverage in the sand. He's like, you could lose it up. If you could hold your breath, maybe you could get out of this. And it feels like a jigsaw thing where he's like, here are the ways to get out of this trap. I hope you learn.
And you
from
do
this.
believe it.
Yes. And he tries.
He does try.
Yeah.
And he does not survive.
Dude, I love when later on Leslie Nielsen like is playing, because I guess he's broadcasting it somehow. He's playing it and Ted Danson's just like turned to the camera. He's like, I'm gonna kill you, son of a bitch. Also, he just had to watch like his girlfriend drown and the TV explode in front of him.
Now, so it goes to Leslie Nielsen's house, and he's looking for tapes to watch because he's a video head.
Yeah, but I'm wondering, I'm like, were those just movies or did he kill other people and he wants to watch it again?
I never took it that way. I thought it was just, I thought he was a guy capable of this. Yeah. But it's not like he's a serial killer or anything like that. Yeah. But he, and then of course, as you can imagine, the zombified corpses of Ted Danson and I'm sorry, I forget her name.
Galen Ross. Actually, before this, he goes back the next day to check the beach, and the body's gone. And I like that he's trying to justify it. He's like, yeah, Tide took him out. Yeah, Tide, I've seen it a million times. Tide took it out. But yeah.
And something I'm realizing now for the first time that I never realized, Leslie Nielsen was telling the truth. You can shimmy out of this.
Yeah.
If you can hold your breath long enough.
Yes.
Now, they didn't hold their breath long enough to not die.
Yeah.
But they were able to shimmy out once they were zombies. So that was true.
And I love when it does turn nighttime, I love that it shows the beach and there are footprints coming out of the beach. I'm like, oh shit.
Yeah.
It does feel a little weird. You have 5 stories and 2 of them are about zombies coming back to life.
And 2 of them are zombie seeking revenge.
Yeah.
For
part of me wishes it was just the serial killer thing, because I'm like, that's already menacing. I don't think we needed a second pair of zombies, but it's fun.
But these are great looking zombies.
Yes. I love that he knows that they're around his house.
Oh yeah.
And he's just like, he assumes that they survived. And I love that he's like, I have the gun still.
This is also one of 2 movies that centers on video.
Yeah.
And monitoring and whatever. Because the last story, which we'll get to, is a guy obsessed with monitors and cameras and whatever.
I have a note later. He is very ahead of his time.
Yeah. But this is one of two stories where a guy is witnessing something descend upon him. Anyway.
Yeah, his security is out. Like, he's filming his entire life.
Yeah.
But his security goes out because of the zombies. I love
watching the footage of them on the security cameras. Like, you're just getting like these glimpses. You're not seeing them.
And it feels like when did hold on, I have a copy of it. Hold on. I was gonna say, when did the fog come out?
Fog's definitely before this.
Is it 1979? Okay, so it has signed by Adrian Barbeau, who's in the next segment.
Oh,
That's
cool.
the autograph wall back there.
Nice.
Yeah, so it feels like the fog, where like the zombies, wherever the zombies are, there's like this mist, this ocean mist that's following them. I love the reveal when they come out of the door, and Leslie Nielsen's like freaking out. He shoots Kaylin Ross like in the head, and she's got like green blood shooting out.
They do a great
so
thing. So
good.
And also, again, testament to an amazing actor.
Yeah.
Leslie Nielsen starts laughing hysterically because he's like, what the fuck is going on? Like, he doesn't understand what's happening.
They threaten him.
Yeah.
They're like, hey, we're going to do the same thing to you. And they're doing like, if you can hold your breath, if you can hold it. And he's just like.
And that's what differs in this one is because it's not, they don't just come back and just murder him.
Yeah.
It's like, no, they come back and do the same thing to him that he did to them. Yeah. And because there is a fighting chance to get out of it, will he, whatever. And the last shot is the tide going over his head. He's completely submerged in water, but he's kind of laughing like,
because he thinks he's gonna get out. He can hold his breath for a long time.
And you're like, maybe he gets out of it. You know?
I'm sad we didn't get his head. Because earlier there's a great shot of Ted Danson's head just completely submerged, which they put his head through like an aquarium.
Oh, it's great.
And had a whole thing. I'm sad we didn't get a shot of Leslie Nielsen doing the same thing underwater.
Oh, you're right, because
it just splashes, like freeze frames, and turns into the comic panel.
You're right.
But that one was great. The zombies look so good in that. They're different types of zombies, at least, because the first one is a guy who's been in the ground for like 10 years.
These are
like
Dawn
fresh,
of the Dead zombies.
Yeah.
They're green.
Yeah, like bloated from like the water and shit.
They're great.
They're fresh zombies.
They would also never look like this in 5 hours, but they
they would. Yeah. So next up, the crate. This one feels like the longest. I don't know. I didn't time them out. This one feels the longest.
Yeah, it always felt like the longest to me.
Yeah.
You got pretty wild hooks happening. Now, I remember when I was little. God, this is how young I was when I saw this. I keep trying to figure out the definitive answer to that question. But I used to say to my mom, "Oh, Mom, this is the one about the Tasmanian devil." Because the monster does look like Taz.
Yeah, the crate ape, I think they call him.
Yeah.
It does look a little bit like Taz.
But this is these professors, and there's a crate.
Yeah, so a janitor drops a coin behind a bunch of stairs at the college. And I forgot what university they filmed this in, but it was one that George Romero went to. Because I forgot to mention earlier, they filmed this like around Pittsburgh, which they usually did. They filmed a lot of this movie. They were just building sets inside like a girls' school. They found some like girls' school to film all this shit. But this was the university that George Romero went to. He was like an alum, so he got to use it. So he drops a quarter or whatever behind the stairs. He finds a box from an Arctic expedition that someone just left under a pile of stairs and forgot about. And then we cut to the professors who are having a gathering. One of them is Dexter Stanley, and the other one is Henry Hal Holbrook, who I think was also in The Fog, with Adrian Barbeau, who plays Billy, who is the fucking worst.
Wait, so wait a minute, it's Dexter. I thought it was
Dexter Stanley is the name of the character. I forget the actor.
No, the actor's the guy. Yeah, no, the actor's the guy from. He's in all the Twilight Zone, and he's in The Obsolete Man. He plays the judge.
Yeah, I forgot his name. I know he's in like an X-Files episode too. I looked through his credits.
He's in. Did Night Gallery? Yeah. He's in Tales from the Dark Side. Something in the Closet. I'm blanking on his name, but I'm amazing. Blanking on his name.
I should have wrote his name down. The other two stood out to me more.
Yeah, but Hal Brooks married to Adrian Barbeau,
who is again the worst.
I just take care of Henry. Believe me, he needs it. Did you ever meet a man who didn't?
She plays a drunk wife. Yeah, who's very verbally abusive to her husband.
And I love that everyone is annoyed with her. Even George Romero's wife, who has a cameo in this scene.
But she talks about how she found like the motivation on how to play it. 'Cause she's like, anybody can just be like a bitch and just say mean stuff. Yeah. She's like, but I had to find like, why is she saying this? And like, why is she unhappy? And like, all of that underwork, if whatever you want to call it, background work, it shows because she is completely believable as a alcoholic wife who is so fed up with her husband. And is
but also
it
like
out in
reliant
the worst way.
on him and projecting. Like she does nothing, but she's like, he's useless. Like, well, he has a job.
Yeah, she's so unlikable.
Yeah,
but so believably unlikable.
And by the way,
Stephen King writing an amazing bully. Every one of these stories except Jordy Verrill has a bully in it, and it's like she's incredible in it. She,
I feel like everyone at one point in time has either had this girlfriend or their friend had a girlfriend or boyfriend, I guess. I feel like sometimes I might have been the asshole boyfriend that a friend group hated, but like everyone's had this where they're like, man, I hope they don't bring what's their face. I really hope they don't bring what's their face to this. And then they do. And you're like, oh God.
Yeah.
And then you have to just like be quiet when they say something awkward or mean because you don't want to like get involved.
Yeah, it sucks. It's
very like again as a kid I'm like, wow, this is very cartoony. As I got older, I'm like, this is way more relatable.
Yeah, it sucks. It sucks. But
and again, I might have been the asshole partner in that situation in the past. So there were definitely a few girls I dated whose friend groups did not like me.
The two gentlemen, devise a plan that they're gonna feed the wife to the crate.
It's not a plan. No. Here's what happens.
I mean, it's an accident, but it's not really an accident.
One guy has a plan, but what leads up to that is Dexter he gets the call and he leaves.
Yeah.
I do like that Henry, he fantasizes about killing Billy in front of everyone and everyone congratulates him.
Oh, it's great. Yeah, this is another one that has fantasies of what the guy. Yeah.
But Dexter goes to the college. Him and the janitor are investigating the crate.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
they think it was old National Geographic until he saw the thing. But I love that like Dexter's trying to be a nice guy. He's like, "Hey man, it's your fine too. We're gonna do this crate, whatever's in there.
Yeah, you
could share it too, buddy. I'm a nice guy."
Yeah.
They open up the crate. It's a fucking crate ape, and it just murders the poor janitor.
Yeah.
Just like rips him in. Like, how does it survive in the crate?
And that's when the light bulb goes off.
Well, not yet. Henry's not there yet.
Wait, I thought they were there together. I'm not remembering these details. I'm sorry.
When's the last time you watched this?
It's been years.
Okay.
Arguably 2 years.
Future note. Try to watch it before episode.
No, I don't do that.
We've had some problems where people just don't remember the movie.
I didn't know we were going to go through it this thoroughly. I got to be honest. I thought we were just going to kind of have a loose, fun discussion about how great Creepshow is. You're like, no, hold on. Then the page after that, it says in the stage directions of the script
look, man.
that originally he walks left. You're saying he walks right. I'm like, Jesus Christ, man. It's a fucking crate. The thing eats everybody.
This is YouTube. I got to hit an hour and put a bunch of ad breaks in this. This is a business show.
I've done YouTube. You don't got to hit an hour.
Anyway.
All right.
But what I like about this is after he gets the janitor killed, he goes to his student and he tells him the whole story. And the student's like, no, you're crazy. Let me go check. And of course, the fucking student dies too.
So I honestly don't remember any of that. I remember him with the janitor, and then I remember him being like, all right, I'm going to feed my wife to this thing, and then he does it. And I could have sworn, I'm wrong, I'm not saying I'm right, but I always thought that not always thought, but I remembered it as being that he tells his friend first what he's going to do, but he doesn't. You're right.
No. So he goes to Henry, tells Henry everything, and Henry's idea is, oh, okay, buddy, I'm going to drug you. And if he just assumes the guy's telling the truth and leave a note for my wife saying that you beat up a woman.
Yeah.
So she will come to the college because I need her help. And then I'm going to feed her to the crate.
Yeah.
This is a plan he has all on his own.
Yeah.
And she walks right into the trap. Her reaction to everything is bizarre because it's like, yeah, he beat this woman. She's like, he did? She's like thrilled about it.
Yeah.
It's like, why are you getting off on this?
That's right. And she's so shit-faced still. Like, she just drank. And I think she's drinking bourbon and milk, by the way. I believe it's her drink.
But then he's so eager to kill her that he's starting to crack before she even walks into the trap. He starts, like, laughing. And he's like, oh, it's funny because the beat-up girl's hiding under the stairs. And it's like, why is that funny?
Yeah.
He gets her in there and he starts strangling. He couldn't even wait for the monster. He was in such a good mood that he was going to get rid of his wife, that he strangles her.
Yeah.
Sure enough, it doesn't work. And I love that, like, I feel like the monster was like, hey, you know, 2, I'm done. But he just heard her bitching and was just like, I got to get rid of this broad.
Yeah, the monster is like, you know, only even I can only take so much.
And I swear to God, if you ever touch me
I love throughout the whole thing, everyone's like, oh, this is Wilma. And she's like, oh, just call me Billy. Everyone does. And then as she's dying, he's like, just tell it to call you Billy. But you're right.
Yeah.
So he goes back later to Dexter and tells him everything he did, just assuming Dexter won't rat him out.
Yeah. It's well, but they do a good job though of establishing the bond between these two men.
Yeah.
And Fritz Weaver, that's his name.
Okay.
Just remembered. Fritz Weaver is really excellent. They're both excellent. They're all excellent. But Fritz Weaver is truly great because when he is getting the confession, you can see in his eyes that he knows he should report his friend, that murder is murder and it's bad, but that he's probably not going to because he pities him so much.
Yeah.
And all of that is very much conveyed, and you kind of get to see, and also how in Hal Holbrook, you get to see this bond where you understand why this guy would reveal all of this to this guy when he didn't need to.
Yes.
He absolutely didn't need to.
He could have just went and be like, no one was there.
Yeah.
Just covered it up, killed Wilma, and been like, there wasn't even a crate. I don't know what you're talking about, buddy.
But you see the bond, and you see that they're like, we're gonna have to live with this.
Also, he kind of blackmails him because earlier he's like, oh, are you going to play chess? And you can tell the guy doesn't want to play chess because he doesn't want to be around Wilma. And then later on, he's like, I expect you to play chess with me twice a week. And he's like, okay, buddy. It's like, oh, I'll just rat you out.
Am I misremembering something too? Isn't there an insinuation that Fritz Weaver kind of skirt chases a little bit?
Yes. So he is like flirting with a girl at the party. And in the note, maybe some of this is made up, but it's revealed in the note that he had a wife who died.
Yes.
And he wasn't handling it well.
Yes.
But I think he made up the part.
But isn't it that it's one of his students or something? The girl?
Maybe.
But which back then you were just allowed to do. But I did get, I'm remembering that there's something about, not that it's blackmail, but it's like, hey, dude, you've made your mistakes too.
Well, I think
he
was flirting with the student, but I think in his note, he's lying to Wilma about it. But I think he was flirting, but I don't know if he was doing anything.
No. I know the note was a lie, but I just wonder if when you say like the blackmail of the chess thing is like a little bit, but I guess Fritz Weaver would be blackmailing Hal Holbrook, not the... No. Hal Holbrook would be blackmailing Fritz Weaver.
Because he could just
my point is like, I wonder if that's in there as a little detail of like...
But it would be hard to prove anything because he threw the crate with the bodies away into the ocean. That is a tense scene where he has the lock and he's got to like lock it without this thing popping out. But I love that they're just like, if you saw how I locked it, you wouldn't mind. It's fine. And it just cuts to the ape blowing out of the crate.
Yeah.
By the way, so the crate ape, one, it could survive hundreds of years on nothing. And two, it really likes its crate because when it's finally out, it moves its crate back to the stairs and just hangs out in there.
It likes the crate. It finds it comforting. And then also, too, this is another story. It's weird because it comes right after the Tide You Over, where it involves the monster coming from or returning to the water.
Yeah, the previous one they leave, and this one it
comes. So there's a lot of parallel. Now I'm curious if any of that was done on purpose. Or if it's just Stephen King being like, these are the stories I wrote, these are the ones we like, we're using them.
Yeah, I can see that.
But
he probably reached into a pile and thought what would work. Like, this can work.
Yeah, which he does sometimes.
I had a bunch of stories that don't have endings. We'll just use those. And then the crate monster gets out the end.
His new pile is, what if all the kids went to a school where the programming was happening with, I'm like... Oh, for God's sakes, dude.
I don't
write another fucking monster thing. His new book's great. If you like it darker.
I gotta read more of his
because it's like got spooky shit in it again.
The last book,
the last few have been a little like I don't know, like a little more science fiction-y, thrillery.
Yeah, the last book that I was reading was the Dr. Sleep book that he wrote with his son. Because I saw the movie and I read the Shining book. I'm like, oh, let me try to read Dr. Sleep.
He didn't write Dr. Sleep with his son. He wrote...
Who did he write? I thought for some
he
reason
wrote Sleeping Beauties with his son.
Okay, I mixed the two up then.
Yeah.
But that was the last one I was reading, and then I fell off. I got to get back to it. I got to read more Stephen King. Only some of the books are like just forever long, though. And by the way,
I tried reading Insomnia, and it's just like, who shot the editor, man?
Yeah.
Like, Jesus Christ.
However, when it comes to Stephen King, we should come back one day and do Maximum Overdrive, the movie he directed with the killer cars.
I don't know that I could ever sit through that again. I saw it once. That is a movie that if we had to talk about it, I would have to watch it again.
Yes.
Like, I barely remember it.
You have to hunt down
terrible.
You have to hunt down the interview he did at the time while he was promoting it, because it was when he was like super on cocaine. He's just rambling.
Yeah, it's great. All the press for it is great, the trailer and everything.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of past, with the exception possibly of this new Crow. I'm kind of past. I'm going to watch it. It's so bad, it's good. Phase of my life.
You thought the new Crow was really bad, or?
I didn't see it yet.
Oh.
It's one of the only movies, though, that I can think of where I would be willing potentially to sit through it to witness the car crash of it all.
Well,
but
this means you didn't watch my What is the Worst Crow episode. Go back and check that out. You're going to be disappointed because it's just a generic revenge action thing with awkward supernatural elements. It's got some legit decent action scenes. It's more bland than anything.
So it's not like, oh, this is terrible. It's just like, oh, this is, who cares?
No, I mean, you watch Crow Wicked Prayer with what's his
Furlong one?
Yeah, the Eddie Furlong one. That one's more fun. Dennis Hopper shows up at the end as a satanic jive talking priest. That's worth the price of admission on its own. Jesus that one is so bad you can laugh at. The new Crow, you're just going to be bored, to be honest.
Now, before we discuss this next story, are you going to get into what kind of cockroaches they used?
No.
What directions the cockroaches run? Or can we just talk about it's a story about cockroaches?
See, what the show is, we go through the movie, we find little moments to relate to and kind of branch
Why
out.
is it called Hack the Movies, by the way? I never knew where the title came from.
Oh, when I was 21 and came up with the title, I was watching a lot of old Roger Ebert at the movies.
Okay.
And I guess 21-year-old Tony thought Hack the Movies would be a good title. And then I just stuck with it.
Just because it sounded like at the movie, sort of. Okay.
That's it. It is awkward because I did end up working for Cinemassacre and people thought it was a ripoff of that, but I actually wasn't even watching Cinemassacre when I came up with Hack the Movies originally. And I'm like, no, I wish I could. That actually makes more sense, but I just loved At the Movies.
Honestly, it does kind of make sense because it's like, it's a hack because it's a meaning like it's a life hack.
Yeah.
Like you could, this is like a Cliff Notes. You could watch it and it's a life hack. You don't have to see the movie. You got all the details from the show, or you're hacking apart the you're hacking it to such detail.
Yes.
That you're
gonna go with that.
We're
gonna go with
I think
that.
both make perfect sense.
And speaking of hacking movies and George Romero, I don't know if you know this, but a few years ago, I took Night of the Living Dead and I made it better, Joe.
Why? Or how?
When I watch Night of the Living Dead, I always have a problem. I go, why am I not in this movie?
Oh, okay.
And then I remembered it's public domain. So back in 2020, I took the movie and I just added a whole bunch of new scenes.
Okay.
So there's now a subplot where I'm stuck outside the house and the characters in the film won't let me in. So I have to deal with the zombie apocalypse outside. I also got rid of all the new segments from the film and I replaced it with
the ones that the guy added like in 1995.
No. That's where I got the idea to
yeah.
not ruin, make Night of the Living Dead better. That's where I got the idea. But no, I took all the new segments out and I got a guy to be basically Alex Jones, who's like pretending like the whole thing is like a false flag and that he's coming up with conspiracy theories.
That's great.
It's called Hack the Living Dead. It's free on YouTube. And I think it's the definitive version
all right.
of Night of the Living Dead.
All right.
Jokes aside, I do feel bad when people tell me, they're like, yeah, I never even saw Night of the Living Dead. I just saw your version. I'm like, oh God, I didn't mean that.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is meant for people who knew the movie. Like that shouldn't have been your first experience.
Well, just write that in the, in the description.
Warning.
Like, but like, guys, this is meant as,
It's my favorite thing is just be like, yeah, me and George, we did really good work on Hack the Living Dead. He shot all his scenes before my mom was born. I shot all my scenes years later.
I'm spilling water.
Oh,
all right, so
next one, they're creeping up on you.
Starring the dad from Christmas Vacation.
Is that I forgot to look it up on IMDb. I was wondering why he looks so fucking familiar.
He's also
no, not Christmas Vacation, Christmas Story.
No, Christmas Vacation. No, Christmas Story is.
I thought he was the dad for Christmas Story.
No, that's Kojak. That's
wait, which dad was he in Christmas Vacation?
Or Kolchak. He's Beverly D'Angelo's dad.
Oh. when I think of the dads,
Christmas
I think,
Story is for Christ's sakes.
Yes,
I'm blanking on his name.
No, you're right. When I think of Christmas Vacation Dad, I think of the other one who was the original Frank Costanza before they replaced him.
Yeah.
Okay.
No. He's not the original. Wait.
Yeah. What's his name?
Oh, yeah, you're right. I'm sorry.
He was the original one.
You're right.
But they went back and reshot those scenes, so a lot of people don't know
Yeah,
that.
yeah, you're right. But anyway, but yeah, he's Beverly D'Angelo's dad.
Yes.
Christmas Story is Kolchak, the Night Stalker.
Okay.
Is that? I can't believe I can't remember his name right now. Anyway,
he's a reclusive billionaire, lives in a penthouse apartment,
and it is billion.
Yes.
Not multi-million.
I think it's billionaire.
I would guess, right?
I would assume it's billionaire, and he's a germaphobe, and he's just obsessing over bugs and germs to the point he can't focus on work. He's got like a very important phone call from like a guy, and he's like, "Hey, sir, there's this." He's like, "These fucking bugs, right?" And he's like, "That's not important right now, sir. There's this."
So it's a very interesting story because, first of all, the setting, aside from what you've already said, he lives in a stark. His apartment looks like THX 1138. Yeah. And it's all white. Every surface is squared off or and white.
Except for the jukebox.
Yeah, he's got a 1950s jukebox in there, which is clearly a vintage ornament that he wanted.
Yes.
Excuse me, which is it's such an odd choice because he looks like he doesn't enjoy anything.
Yeah,
let alone music.
I think he was inspired by Howard Hughes, late Howard Hughes, who went like insane and secluded himself in his mansion.
So there's that's definitely it. But the interesting thing is because the technology they're showing in this story is indicative of what theoretically was possible in the 80s, but was nowhere near yet common.
However,
you don't know if it's supposed to be the future. You don't know if it's supposed to be present day, but he's got so much money he lives with this.
I think that's the
whatever.
idea. Like he's able to afford all this technology. But when I was watching it, I'm like, oh shit, as someone who works from home, this is my life now. I'm like, oh, that's very
But then also too, like, why is his apartment the future question to me comes from the fact that his apartment looks the way it does. It's not just the technology. No. It's the stark white. Now you could say it's because he's so obsessed with germs and everything. Yeah. This is how he lives.
I think the idea is, I don't think any of the apartments look like that. I think he modified this. I think he owns it and he modified it to look like that.
Okay.
And he even has like a porthole on his like door to look at people.
Yeah, and even that is like weirdly like. It's weird, like when he looks, just the way the video appears to him from the other side of the door. It's so odd.
Speaking of bully, he's a fucking asshole.
No, that's what I was saying. Every story has a bully except for Jordy Verrill.
Yes, and so he gets called by this guy, and he tells him, it's like, hey, no, the guy who we were trying to like merge with that you were screwing over killed himself, and he just goes, oh, that's great. That's great news. That makes things easier for us. I love when the dead guy's wife calls him.
Yep.
And she's like, you killed him. He was so depressed. He killed himself. It's all your fault. And I just love this line. Who gave you my number? I'd like to fire him. She goes, it was in my husband's address book. And his only response is,
well, I can't fire him, can I?
Now, this guy also, I'm blanking on his name again, but he also stars in one of the best episodes of Tales.
Upton Sinclair, I think his name is. I think.
I don't think that's it.
No.
But it's okay. But
who's
no, Upton Sinclair is an author.
Sounds like a real name. I don't know.
He's an author.
What the fuck?
Or a writer.
His name is Upton, though, I think.
It's not Upton. But it doesn't matter.
I forgot.
I can't believe you don't have it in these thorough notes.
Well, I'm glad the guy who misremembered the previous segment is telling me what I got wrong.
No, its name is definitely not Upton Sinclair. Okay. That's a writer.
Why did I think Upton?
E.G. Marshall, who also starred in Seasons of Belief, which is one of the best Tales from the Dark Side episodes. And why that's interesting is for two reasons. Tales from the Dark Side is the TV show Romero ended up doing when he wanted to make Creepshow the series and couldn't get the rights. So they called it Tales from the Dark Side. But it was based on these movies. It is an extension of this universe. But this story in particular is essentially the prototype for Tales from the Dark Side. This plays so much like a Tales from the Dark Side episode. It feels so much like a Tales from the Dark Side episode when Tales from the Dark Side is at its best. Yeah. This is it. I mean, just the way this now aside from how graphic it is and some of the language, like it really feels like an episode of Tales from the Dark Side.
And This one, like, plot wise, there's not a lot going on in this.
No.
But it's just we're seeing this guy who we can't sympathize with at all, just losing his mind because there's just more and more roaches and bugs in his apartment. I love when they're in his food at one point.
Disgusting. Yeah, and he's eating that awful.
Yeah.
Like it's like grape nuts or bran or whatever the fuck in the milk, and it's such a miserable meal to begin with.
The funny thing is, like, it's building suspense, but not because like we're afraid for him. It's just because like we're eager to watch him die, and they're dragging it out so long. Like he calls his landlord and threatens to like have him lose his job if he doesn't give him an exterminator in 30 minutes. He's oddly racist toward the guy who works in the building.
Yeah. Yeah, and then like the way the super comes up and it's a black dude.
Yeah.
And then the black dude, the way he's talking to him, because he's going, "Oh, gee, I sure am sorry," and he's doing this voice, and you're like, they've talked before. He's been really racist to him before. The black guy now is razzing him.
Yeah.
Because he's like, "You're a dickhead and you're a fucking racist, so I'm going to talk to you like this."
Yes.
And E.G. Marshall does say one or two fucked up things to him.
He's like, nothing... "Oh, people could go far. People of color."
Yeah, he says something. I think he says like "people of your type" or something like that. Like, yeah, it's like, so it's fucked up, but it's kind of passive, but it's not, you know, whatever. But anyway, and yeah, it's the roaches descend upon him. So you've got this guy who thinks everything that lives that's not him is a pest.
Yes.
And he especially hates bugs. And then the bugs infiltrate his apartment to the point where he becomes the pest and the bugs kill him.
And he can't get rid of them. There's like a blackout. So a lot of his resources are like gone. No one can help him. And they just completely take him. Usually I'm not creeped out by bugs too much.
This is a gross one.
This one, it goes so far. And then that ending scene where it's just him dead and they just explode out of him.
It's pretty gross.
So
now
this is gross.
This is also too shot in a time where they had to use real cockroaches. So they talk about that in the documentary. It's disgusting. It's a great story. It's beautifully shot. Like, it's really well done. And this is the only one that I would level a criticism. Is that how you say it?
I guess
I have, and it's not a huge criticism, but this is the only story where I really have had any critique that might be a little negative. I love the story. It could arguably be the best story. Like, if people that say that, I wouldn't argue with them. But I always wished at the end the bugs didn't come out of him, because I always thought at the end it should have been him dead.
Yeah.
After you see these bugs kind of descend on him.
And you wonder if it like even happened.
It should have been like he's dead in his apartment and it's pristine and that's it. It was just
like, was
in
this
his
in
head.
his head? Yeah.
Yeah. And I felt like the fact that they show like, no, it's not in his head. Like, well, because then that's the point where I was like, yeah, but the bug, these bugs aren't in this building. Like, how is this happening?
Keep in mind, this is following like a crate ape, 2 zombies, and
but that's
plants.
See, that's
when you package it together, you're gonna want like a schlocky ending.
I disagree, and here's why. And it's my problem with the hitchhiker story in Creepshow 2. Should be in her head. That hitchhiker should be following her because of her guilt for a hit and run. And at the end, when they actually show you that no, he really was there, you're like, come on. Yeah, that's So in this story, and people will make that argument you just made.
Yeah, I'm not saying I agree with those people. I could just see,
but I don't like that argument
because I'm thinking back years ago. Grindhouse. When Grindhouse came out,
right,
you start off with Planet Terror, zombies, action, and stuff, and then the second one was Death Proof, which is slower. I didn't get to see Grindhouse in theaters. All my friends who saw it said like, "Oh yeah, we walked out on that second one." Because it was more.
It's funny in hindsight. The second one is much better.
Yeah, so you
have to separate the two of them.
I got them afterwards on video, and I watched them separately, so I didn't have that experience. I'm like, oh, but these are both fine on their own. But that's why, like, they can't, like, they had to have the bugs come out in the end because you're expecting something crazy.
I guess so.
Yeah.
I guess my response to that would be the other stories live in a certain reality, and like I'm big on logic, and I'm big on a consistent reality in a horror story. So just like I would make fun of, you know, like for Star Wars is always a great example.
Yeah.
People will say, like, you know, in Revenge of the Sith, like really Yoda falls 400 feet through the Senate chamber and bangs off of all these things and he's not hurt.
Yeah.
And people go, oh, so you're not okay with that, but you are okay with laser sword? And it's like, no. But that's not what the reality is. The reality is you're living in a place where there's a certain type of technology, and we've seen that technology have an effect on a living being, which means these beings are vulnerable.
Yeah.
So that's a rule we've established.
Yeah.
So you have to follow that rule. And in this, we've established he lives in a fortress that is impenetrable.
Yeah.
So therefore, how are these roaches in this building? They're not in this building. They're in his head.
Yeah.
But I hear what you're saying about it's got, you know.
What you could do, the having your cake, not a head cake, but having your cake and eating it too, where like you show the corpse at the end by itself, and then you just like show one cockroach in the room where it's like, oh, was it real?
Sure. And I get that it's a bigger fuck you to him to have them all burst out of his mouth.
You do
and
have that
everything.
cool shot because he's in that sealed room and they're just filling up.
Now, completely other direction. If you watch Tales from the Dark Side, the movie, which is the unofficial part 3 of Creepshow,
it has a very similar ending of the cat segment.
But you buy it. Why?
Yeah.
Because they firmly established this cat is from like another dimension or something.
Yeah.
There's something wrong with it.
Yeah. It's like a demon cat.
Yeah, so when it comes out of him, you're like, yeah, no, that
Yeah,
fucking
makes
cat's whatever.
It was a
right?
weird way to kill that guy.
Yeah.
But
So, anyway.
yeah. But anyway, he's dead. Then we get the epilogue where Tom Savini and another guy, Garbage Men, they find the comic they're reading. I love that they're like, oh, we can get a voodoo doll. And he's like, no, someone already sent away for it. And then cut to Tom Atkins being like, my neck really hurts.
Yeah.
Cut to Joe Hill just stabbing a voodoo doll. And
I forget, does the dad die or is he's just writhing in pain?
I think it's I don't think it's explained. I think it's just like maybe he died, maybe he's just being tortured. I don't know.
Okay.
Creepshow 2, Billy doesn't bring it up, so I don't know.
Well, I don't think it's Billy again in Creepshow 2.
No, I think it is. They call him Billy, I think.
We're going to look that up. As we wrap it up. Hold on. I'm going to look that up. Yeah, it is Billy.
Yep.
Son of a bitch. I never realized until right now that's supposed to be the same kid.
Honestly, if I didn't watch them back to back, I wouldn't have realized it either. I would have assumed it was a different kid. Because it feels like a different creep also, so.
It is, and he looks different.
Yeah.
Now, in the first Creepshow, he actually has a last name.
Yeah.
And in the second one, he's just credited as Billy. So I wonder
maybe
if,
it is. Yeah.
Maybe it's just we're going to call him Billy again?
Every kid will just be Billy.
Yeah. Anyway.
But yeah, great fucking movie. But now we're at the end. What do you think is the best segment in Creepshow?
It's undoubtedly the Jordy Verrill segment.
Really?
Yeah, it's a masterpiece. And it's you know, every other story is super fun. A close second is the E.G. Marshall. But Jordy Verrill I have zero criticisms. It's haunting, it's funny, it's scary. It's an amazing concept. It's certainly the most original of the 5.
Yeah.
I don't know what other story could really top it, except for the E.G. Marshall one, which again I would accept that as being. But the other 3 outside of those 2 are great.
Yeah.
But they're not the best.
For me, it might be Jordy Verrill. I actually really enjoy the Crate. The Crate, I feel like is. If it's not the longest, it feels long. It starts to feel like its own movie, and I end up getting more invested in it because I think we're spending more time with it.
Great, that's an interesting point. I never really thought of that. Yeah, but that's,
I'm gonna check afterwards. I'm gonna be like, Crate was actually the shortest, and I'm gonna look like an idiot.
It does feel the longest. That's
Yeah.
I do feel a little bit like I enjoy this movie front to back, but I do feel a little bit of a not a lull, but like okay, the Crate is going to take a little while.
Was that like the bathroom break segment where they're like, we'll make this one a little longer?
And it's also, I think, from a character standpoint, it's one of the more interesting ones because you really do feel for Hal Holbrook.
Yeah,
but it is one where you can kind of walk away and come back.
You know what? I think maybe my personal favorite is the Crate, but I think you're right. Jordy Verrill is the one that fires on all cylinders. I think that is the best.
It's
one.
a perfect. Everybody like that is the perfect show. If you had to be like, we need to do a 12-minute showcase for these three guys you've never heard of, George Romero, Stephen King, and Tom Savini, and you were like, here you go, you'd be like, perfect.
Yeah.
That is their business card for their little company where they want you to hire them to make you horror things.
And it's just a that segment's great. The whole movie is great.
Yes.
It led to an okay sequel. It led to a very bad sequel, which I've actually never actually watched.
The actual Creepshow 3?
The actual Creepshow 3 I've never watched.
To this day, I'm like, who the fuck got their hands on that?
I know. A part of me wants to watch it out of curiosity. It's on Tubi right now, so I might.
I'm also like, was it a loophole they jumped through because it was technically called Creepshow 3 that they were, because they did that shit in Europe all the time.
Yeah.
They have all kinds of Evil Dead sequels.
No,
and
I think
whatever.
this
They
one
just,
was like officially licensed for whatever reason.
I think Scream Factory put it out.
Yeah, I might actually watch it.
It's terrible.
The real Creepshow 3 that people consider to be Creepshow 3 is the Tales from the Dark Side movie, which I actually reviewed with James on Cinemassacre years ago.
Which is obviously the movie of Tales from the Dark Side of the series, which was the TV version of Creepshow.
Yes.
So it all comes full circle. That is where Creepshow begins and ends for me. It is Creepshow 1 up through and including Tales from the Dark Side, the movie, and I will count Tales from the Dark Side, the TV show, as part of that. I do not count Creepshow 3 because it was not made with any of the same people, and I don't count the new Creepshow series because there's one or two adaptations of Stephen King. There's one or two adaptations of Joe Hill. Yeah. But Romero obviously is not involved. I do not think Savini's involved.
I don't know.
And I think that it just does not. I have watched all 4 seasons, whatever it is.
You got further than me. I actually enjoyed the show. You got further than me.
I think you can cobble together at best roughly a 4-story, 90-minute movie out of across 4 seasons with a decent enough wraparound in one of the stories that you could get away with another installment of the films.
Yeah.
But it would still, even after all that, it would still feel like, Disney Star Wars.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, it's just not the same.
For me, I think I watched the first 2 seasons, and I enjoyed it for the most part. They're like hit or miss, but like nothing like upset me. I know Adrienne Barbeau was in like one of them.
She's in one of the only good. She's in what I think is the best of all of them. She's in Gray Matter, which is a Stephen King.
Okay, that was a Stephen King one.
But she's in.
There was one about like a Loch Ness monster, but the American.
That's the Joe Hill adaptation. It is not good. Now I don't know if the story's good, but by the Silver Lake. Of Lake Placid or whatever the fuck it's called.
I think
Silver Waters of Lake Placid or something.
You merged
like that.
2 different movie titles into one. You merged Under the Silver Lake and Lake Placid into one.
It's like
Under the Silver Lake Placid.
It's something along the lines of like by the silvery waters of something or other. But like it's just it's just look, they got their hands on the property name and they're able to make something that they're trying to make in the spirit of it. And, God bless, like my hat's off to that. But I just think it misses what this feels like. And if you watch those 3 movies and a lot of Tales from the Dark Side, Tales from the Dark Side's got some doozy, in a bad way, I mean, episodes. But if you watch Tales from the Dark Side at its best, and even at its pretty good, and these 3 movies, there's a spirit there that's connecting all of them, and that's clearly the common denominator is Romero. Yeah, but more so than anybody else. But they adapted a lot of Stephen King on Tales from the Dark Side, or not a lot, but some. And
Tales from the Dark Side was one I always like missed growing up, like show wise.
Oh man, there's some great stuff.
My friends who I mentioned earlier, Movie Dumpster, they have a whole bonus show where they go through Tales from the Dark Side. It's called Talks from the Dark Side.
There's some great stuff on Tales from the Dark Side.
I think I watched more episodes of Monsters than Tales from the Dark Side.
Well, that was the sequel series that has, again, it has its moments. Nowhere near as good.
I can't remember,
and not part of this universe.
Yeah, I can't remember a specific thing that happened on it. But solid film. Joe,
thanks for having me, man.
Where can we find you?
JoeDeRosa.com. I got shows coming up. Somerville, Massachusetts, December 7th at the Crystal Ballroom. New tour. The Joystick Tour kicks off in January. All kinds of dates from Toronto to San Diego to outside of Chicago. All kinds of places. And adding new dates, by the way, too. So go to JoeDeRosa.com for tickets to all of those shows. We'll See You in Hell, the podcast, talking movies with Pat Walsh. All the back catalog is available wherever you get your podcasts. New episodes have been exclusively on Patreon for the last few years. Patreon.com/WSYIH pod or podcast. You'll find it. You'll find it. And then last but not least, my bar/sandwich shop, Joey Rose's, is up in New York City. If you're up there, swing by. We got horror movie stuff all over the walls.
Oh, shit, I didn't know
we
that.
got great sandwiches. We got cheap drinks. It's
Nice.
a fun time. It's a party. Come through. Joey Rose's, you can check that at joeyroses.com is the website.
Nice. All right. And thank you all for watching. Please like, share, subscribe. Check out my Patreon, patreon.com/hackthemovies. Book me on Cameo. Do all that fun stuff. And we'll see you later. Goodbye.
Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Check out our other videos and Patreon page.
Talking about tapes.